Hello and welcome to the Bend Like Bamboo Resilience Show. To bend like bamboo is to master change with flexibility. And on the show, I get to interview very special guests talking about resilience and how to master it in our minds, in our bodies, and in our lives. And today I get to interview the beautiful Nina Hargrave. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for
That's
having me.
all right. Thanks for coming on the show. Let me introduce you properly. So, Nina is a mum of two boys. She is a horticulturist. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Landscape architect, meditation teacher, and the founder of Serene Body Health. So, Serene Body Health is a beauty, wellness, and lifestyle brand, and their mission is to encourage daily practices and rituals of self care balanced with modern life through the power of scent. Love it. Their creative products are very healthy, natural, ethical, and sustainable, while feeling luxurious and special on the body and awakening the olfactory system. Their passion explores the beauty of balancing aromas, creating inspiring scents that have the power to shift moods and support emotional health, helping to empower people. How cool is your business?
Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty fun. I enjoy it.
So, how many years ago did you start it?
It's over 2 years now. It was about June 2 years ago when I actually launched the business. And then I guess it was probably 6 months of preparation before that.
I totally agree with you that the power of the olfactory system and the power of scent and how it can affect how we think and feel is profound, isn't it?
hmm Yeah,
What,
it is. It
how
definitely
did you figure
is.
that out for yourself? Like, what's the story behind it?
I think like years ago, um, I remember getting treatments and things like that done, and people would use essential oils on me, and I remember not really thinking much of it at the time, and then just getting really into them, and realizing that the power of the scent combined with the meditation was really, really helpful for me when I got into meditation practice.
Mm.
And that was, yeah, now I sort of find that for me, it just goes hand in hand. So I will meditate sometimes without using oils, but yeah, it's just this combination that I found really effective.
I love it. That's beautiful. And I love how you want to
Mm.
help people in that way. It's really wonderful. What have you noticed in the way that the smell of the perfume, how it helps people?
Well, I think, yeah, definitely. I think with essential oils, like for some people, they might be, some people just love them and get really into them, and others not so much.
Yeah.
But I think as well, you can put essential oils in the diffuser, and it smells really lovely. Um, but I think as well, I think to get sort of extra benefits from them, I think as well, you've got to do a little bit of work like with the oil as well. So I think I think if you're there's intention as
Yeah.
well, and there's also you know that sort of idea that I'm going to use this to support myself, so you're
Yeah.
already using that intention, and then you're going to take deep breaths. So for me, I sort of think the oils are amazing, but it's not magic. You do, I think, to
Absolutely.
get the health benefits from using essential oils, you do have to work with them.
Yeah, yeah, and just knowing the power
Yeah.
behind like herbs and medicine, just knowing the power of the properties, and then
Yes.
yeah, that's so great. And rather than using chemicals or harsh toxins in helping us smell good, why not combine
Yeah.
health and well-being and
Yeah.
quality ingredients all at the same time? It's a really great idea.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, with perfume, there's still not that much awareness of the chemicals that are in perfumes, like your kind of conventional perfumes. So it's kind of, challenging that idea as well of,
Mm.
how we look at perfume, and, just questioning things as well, which I guess we're starting to do a bit more with like our skincare products. And now we're sort of looking at, ingredients, and are these organic and natural? And I think perfume is still you know, people are still kind of a little bit unaware of that one. So it's good to, yeah. And also people also still look at the idea of perfume and essential oils as two very, very different areas.
Yes.
So combining these two areas together, I think, is kind of interesting, because it's kind of like, oh, you know, it's yeah, it's like
great
it's
idea.
a perfume.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
So let's dive in. Tell me, what does resilience mean to you?
Resilience to me, I associate resilience with being present.
Yeah.
So I think I sort of, I guess with things that have happened to me in the past, I do remember when I was going through difficult times of, you know, having traumatic things happen, I remember being able somehow at times to be in the present moment. And that was what got me through those times. And that was before practicing meditation.
Yeah.
So then I sort of realized, oh, okay, this is what it's about.
It's funny, like traumatic events almost force us to be present, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They do.
That's the
Because
gift
you sort
of
of
it.
have to, yeah, exactly. Like I think, you know, when you've got things like really full on circumstances, but you still have to kind of, you know, get up in the morning and you have to look after your kids, and yeah, you just got to sort of get on with it.
Yeah. Because when we've got so much on
I
our
think
plate,
is,
the overwhelm of the trauma forces you to just have to just focus on this moment and then the next one and the next one. But actually what we're doing is we're becoming more present, which is why so many people have massive transformations after going through so much.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great definition
Absolutely.
of resilience.
Yeah. Because I sort of find that as well when I go walking, for example, and then I'll start to sort of get into my own head. I'm like, because I guess doing the meditation, you can kind of train your brain to stop doing that.
It's all
and then
about
you go back into your body
yourself,
and you're like,
isn't it? Yes, it's all about catching yourself when you come out of the present. So how do you catch yourself? What does it feel like when you're out of the present moment?
When I'm not in the present moment, I'm just in my head. And my thoughts are usually, for me, it's usually I'm in the future. I'm not quite sure why that is. I'm very rarely in the past, because, you know, I've heard people say, you know, when you're thinking of things in the future, there's usually worry. When you're thinking about the past, it's usually more sadness. And so for me, it's more in the future and these scenarios that I'll be playing out in my head that are probably never really going to happen.
Usually not. It's true. Usually not.
It's kind of a waste of time.
Totally is.
And then I'll catch myself and then I'll be like, okay, back into the feet. So for me, it's the feet. Ooh. I focus on my feet because if I'm walking, the feet is kind of what I can, well, I guess it's like the anchor to the ground, isn't it?
I love it.
So you just want to pull, you want to pull yourself out of your head and down into the ground.
Yeah.
And then and then it's like, then you can start to, you know, watch the wind blow, watch the butterfly flying past, you know, and just, then it becomes like this really beautiful experience as opposed to like, what the hell am I doing in my head?
And what does it feel like when you are present? What's going on for you and what magic happens from that?
Oh, I find it just becomes really, there then becomes more of like gratitude starts to kick in, and you start to sort of, you notice things around you a lot more as well. You've come into your body. So it's a very different experience. It's a very different way of viewing the world as opposed to sort of just being up here, and then you often find you're irritated or you're flustered because you're thinking about things. Yeah. And you can get tired as well because you're kind of overthinking. So it's just this different experience, and it's more ephemeral in a way. Like you're watching things, you know, in more of a kind of transient way. Like you're stepping back.
Yeah, you're more the observer.
Yeah. You're the observer. Yeah, and that's where you want to be.
Because you're less reactive when you're the reserver, aren't you? And you can think
Exactly.
through like who you want to
Yeah.
be in those moments rather than just responding. And that's when we can
Yeah.
choose, you know, who we want to be. And what we're actually doing is when we're choosing who we want to be and how we're wanting to react, we're
Yeah.
choosing what
Exactly.
biochemistry we're going to fire. And we're either in growth and
Yeah.
repair or survival and stress. So that there's actually a lot going on when we make those decisions. So much.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can start to, I think when you step back, then you start to almost feel like you're more in control of your life,
Exactly. So it changes your perception
your
of
perception of things as
control.
well. Because otherwise, you're a bit of a victim to your own mind. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of, it's playing tricks on you. And,
Yeah.
you know,
I love that.
sometimes it's healthy and sometimes it's not so healthy.
Yes. So would you like to share something that you've been through that you've had to overcome?
Yes. The main sort of like chain of like life events, I guess, was sort of around the age 33, 34. So I'm now 40. And that was, well, my mum was quite ill for about 12 years. So this was sort of through my 20s. And she had, chronic, she had leukemia. And so she was chronically ill. She had bone marrow transplant. And so there was sort of that going on. My sister was also mentally ill sort of growing up as well. So she had bipolar and she was, great at times and then really, really not good at other times. And when my mother died, I'd had my first son. So he got to meet her in his first year of life. And then I fell pregnant with my second child. And it was about 7 months after my mum had passed away that my sister then had a drug overdose. So when
Yeah.
she had the drug overdose, I was sort of halfway through my second pregnancy. And so that was just this real shock because I thought that she was a survivor. And I didn't really, even though I could feel things, unraveling and getting quite bad, they'd been going on like that for a while. So it was a shock.
What a massive shock. This
So
is a
that's,
true example of how sometimes life throws the bigger
yeah,
change and you
yeah,
copped it. That was like every
yes,
level. Every level.
yeah,
So
yeah,
how did that
it
feel
was.
when it first happened, and then how did that decline to become, probably maybe some of your darker moments before it all, before you turned it around? Let's talk about the dark stuff first.
I think the interesting thing is that I just the type of person I am, I think growing up, I went into survival mode.
Yeah.
So I was very present. I didn't stay in bed for a week, which I should have probably. I didn't. I just kept going. I was in shock. So the shock lasted quite a while. But I don't remember sort of having these incredibly dark times at that time. I remember crying a lot, and I remember going and doing grief counselling, and I would cry in the car on the way to the grief counselling.
Wow.
And I do remember feeling quite lonely as well because my husband was working a lot. He'd started a new business, and I was quite lonely. But I also I went into survival mode, but then I think the survival mode probably went on for a bit too long.
Okay.
And then coming out of that, then it was time to start dealing with my emotions more and to also, start asking people for help if I needed it, as opposed to just being okay all the time, because that's what people expect out of you if you're always going to present that way.
That's right. And it's so good that you saw a counsellor and you actually seeked help. It's really, really good message there. It really is important to reach out for help. It's absolutely okay to not be okay. And considering what you were experiencing, of course you felt lonely in how you were feeling because it was your experience and your family connections. And it would be hard to relate to your husband or the people around you that aren't going through that. It can feel really lonely. So it's important to have a safe space to talk about these feelings. And what else did you do to make yourself present during that whole period?
I can't remember when it was, but I started looking into meditation. So I started doing meditation courses, and I found the meditation the most helpful thing.
Yeah.
And then because then I'd studied meditation, I was sort of practicing, doing all the right things. Then it wasn't until, a more recent, sort of in the last few years, then I started to go through those times of hitting rock bottom. So then I started to drink. Then I started to, because I'd just been surviving a little bit for too long. Then I started to call my friends on the phone crying, saying I need help.
Yeah.
So it hit me later, because I just, when the kids were so little, I was just in this routine, which it was probably the best thing for me, because it helped me just keep going.
Wow. So that just shows how, if you probably had to hold the space and you wanted to, be there for your kids, but there was still stuff there that was unresolved that you then had to look at later. And how did you deal with that time when you realized there was more stuff that made you feel like it was all coming up for you?
Well, at times I drank.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a way of dealing with it. And, so escaped. I definitely did that. And then, just reaching out to people, which was, a huge thing for me.
Yeah.
And then again, just sort of practicing the meditation and just knowing sort of, what was going to work for me. And then I guess at times as well, then kind of, doing the right things, and then sometimes doing things that were not good for me.
Yeah, that's
and then
normal.
letting that play out as well. That just kind of had to happen.
When you say I reached out to people and that was big for me, talk me through that. Why is that?
That was definitely big for me, because I think growing up, I sort of I grew up in a sort of a family that was great, but we never talked about our emotions. Our emotions weren't really, I didn't feel that it was, I felt like I was burdening people if I talked about my problems to people.
You
And
feel
I also,
safe, communicating.
and I grew up as though that was also a sign of weakness. So you don't kind of cry to people. You hold it together, because my mum was very stoic like that. You just, you don't do that. So being able to just be vulnerable was like a huge thing for me.
So you had to unlearn old beliefs that you may have watched growing up, and that what you started to believe about yourself. And that's why I'm so passionate about flexibility, is we often don't do that. And it takes big events like this sometimes that force us to change what we're believing, and for you to transform that reaching out for help doesn't mean weakness or burden. It's actually would have been very healing for you, needing to reach out. I remember the same thing when I needed people to wash and dress me. I found it so hard to receive, but it was so healing as well, needing to learn how to do that. And sometimes, we wait until we're forced to change our minds about. And so how's your life better now, having gone through that?
I feel as though I feel as though now I know what I have to do to kind of keep myself in check as well. Like I practice gratitude, and I find it sort of, for me, it sort of has to be on this daily basis, because then if it's on a daily basis, it does actually have an impact on my mindset.
Yeah.
So, and the same with the meditation. The meditation and the essential oils are going to be like a lifelong thing for me. That's just going to be part of my life. So it's these daily practices, which is what the business is about too. I find it's how to kind of check in with yourself and stay in check, because otherwise, if I don't do it for a week or a few weeks, then I start to notice I just don't have that resilience as much, or I start to be a little bit more reactive with the kids.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just, yeah.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think daily check-ins, are really important. You created a beautiful product that helps people to do that. A huge why behind your business. It's not just about smelling pretty perfumes. It's about daily check-ins to remain more conscious in our lives, more present in the moment, where we're going to promote growth and repair as well as more resilience. It's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's brilliant because, I use essential oils as part of my some of the treatment I do at the clinic as a kinesiologist. And I know that some of those oils will bring something into the olfactory system, and it changes the brain and that smell, with the intention of, let's say, an oil is related to the emotion of grief. And I'm trying to remove the grief from the body. Then, smelling that oil that is for grief, and there's particular ingredients in there. Yeah, it's funny how that helps with the evacuation of that, and
it's such
more
a powerful
powerful.
thing.
Yeah,
because that's the other thing. Like when I've had, just if I'm playing around with different scents and blends, because I make them all myself. It's just so interesting. Some people have this incredible reaction to things. Like I had someone smell rose and literally go and vomit.
Yeah, that can happen too. Yeah.
Because obviously, and there's, usually you realize as well when you delve into it that there's this incredibly strong, painful emotion that's associated with that scent.
Yeah, or a memory. Yeah.
A memory. And it triggers that memory so quickly. And it's so, that memory is so powerful that it makes them, go and do that. So I find it's just really fascinating.
So fascinating how people react. It's not necessarily an allergy. It's a memory that's triggered off a repulsion.
Exactly. A repulsion. Yeah. And it can be really strong. Some people will have it with lavender or, and with some people, it's like they'll smell something and it's just this overwhelming sense of comfort.
Yes.
So it's
I've
great.
noticed you're wearing your bin like bamboo wristband there.
I've got it on, yes.
I love it. Do you find it helps to catch yourself as well? Do you find it helps you to be present?
Looking at it, yeah. Well, I'm kind of big into that sort of, symbol as well, because I have my two butterflies here, and that symbolizes my mum and my sister for me.
Oh, that's
so
lovely.
I'm I like that little, it's about the check-in,
Yeah, the check-in. It's really important to check in because we can become subconscious or unconscious. When we're stressed or we don't want to look at something or something gets too overwhelming or hard, so you have to actively bring yourself back.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's that visual thing. And I'll find that, if I'm going for a walk and I'm in my own head, and then I'll just watch the butterfly and it'll be like, oh, and then I'm out of it. I'm out of my head and I'm back into, observing again. And I'm in that really good place again.
Yeah, it makes you feel so much better when you are the observer. You feel so much more in control, and you just see with fresh eyes from that elevated point of view where you can see so much more possibility around you.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how we can promote repair. So I'm thinking that your main tips are, keeping yourself in check is really important. Daily gratitude, it affects our mindset, and you also love meditation and oils as your check-in. Do you have any other further tips to add today?
Definitely, I think movement helps. Some form of movement, I think moving the body is really, really important. And I like yoga, but I think walking or whatever, you do to just shift. Sometimes you need to shift energy. And so I think, moving can be a really nice way of doing that as well. So that's another thing that I have to do daily.
Yeah, great.
But that's probably, beautiful. They're kind of the basic things for me.
Oh, basic is where it's at. Simplify everything. Life gets better.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much, Nina. This is so wonderful. You've been through obviously so much, and your message today was so critically important that even when you do go through stuff and significantly difficult stuff, if you can just keep that inner thermostat within of presence in the moment, this is how you got through a really difficult time, and this is how we can promote resilience.
Yes, and reach out to people. Just always know that there's people. I think that's also really good. I love talking to people and, just feeling supported and knowing that there are people around you that, you can find for support.
Yeah, connection's so
Yeah.
key. So if anyone wants to
Yeah.
find your wonderful business, it's serenebodyhealth.com, which is also your
Yes.
Instagram and Facebook handles. I'll have all this
Yes.
information in the blog and the show notes. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
That's all right. It was super fun. All right, everyone. No matter what you are going through, you can overcome it and discover what you are made of. I'll see you next week.